I'd actually like to talk about something that a lot of people are aware of already, and it's going back to the whole issue regarding Brooklands Finance Bar and Kitchen. And
what's your name?
John Roberts. And here's the issue. The issue is that I'm not going to talk about any pending litigation or anything like that, but I'd like to address some issues surrounding what's occurring. But that's just it. Is that's my point. It really hasn't been done. And what I'm talking about, what hasn't been done, is that there's a lot of tension right now between residents and the commission. And that has never really been addressed, and commissioners have never really sat down with residents who have an issue with the process, the way that it happened. Commissioners have never sat down with residents and discussed anything actually surrounding this. And I get a little bit concerned because I see all this news and traffic on listservs and this and that, and there's just a lot of anger out there. And I just don't think that there has been any outreach by this commission to sit down and talk with the residents who are actually upset about the way that this happened. And it did not happen, in my opinion. This is my opinion, and I'm not flexing internet muscles like a lot of people do. In my opinion, the way that this whole issue occurred was quite frankly unsatisfactory. There has not been any attempt to sit down with people who did not like the way that this happened. There are some things that have occurred which quite frankly appear to be not above board. And it is my concern that what I would like to see is for the community and the commissioners to sit down and discuss their issues. I don't like to see lawsuits. I don't like to see things like that. We need to sit down and we need to discuss. Because we have a resident of this neighborhood who took it upon himself and took his own time to sit down with the members of the community and the owners of that restaurant to hammer out an agreement. Quite frankly, that should have been done by this ANC. A private citizen should not have had to do that. And it is troubling to me that occurred. There have been things that have occurred, again, which are not above board, in my opinion, that have been documented, and we need to sit down. The commission needs to sit down with the community, and I know by reading your bylaws, because I read them several times, I know that you actually have the power, or the executive committee actually has the power to appoint a special commission. And it is my opinion that a special commission needs to be appointed or established in order to address concerns. Because according to the DC Code of Ethics, commissioners should not be doing anything which will, and I will quote, the avoidance of misconduct and conflicts of interest, actually it says right here, members of the Council of the District of Columbia shall at all times maintain a high level of ethical conduct in connection with the performance of official duties, and shall refrain from taking, ordering, or participating in any official action which would adversely affect the confidence of the public and the integrity of the government of the District of Columbia. And I do believe that there's been some things that have adversely affected the confidence of the public here.
Madam Chair, may I take this?
Where is that in the bylaws?
Code of conduct, straight from.
The code of conduct.
Yes.
Okay, no, I just asked you a question.
Straight from the code of conduct.
Okay, are you finished, Mr. Roberts?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry, may I ask you where you live?
I live in 14th Monroe.
You live in 14th and Monroe?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's 5B, what side? What side?
He's on my side of the
Okay, all right. So you're in 14th. Let me just say, I'm Commissioner Steptoe, and I'm the commissioner within which Brooklands Finance is located. Let me just say, Mr. Roberts, thank you for your opinion. Number one, I do want to ask you a question. And I'll ask everyone, because maybe many of you all probably want to know about that. Did anyone attend the Saturday single-member district meeting in which there were about 70 people? All right. So of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, of the 8 of you all who attended, who lives in 5B04? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, thank you very much. Let me just say this. In terms of a violation or some sense of confusion about the conflict of interest or whatever it was you quoted, what did you say?
There's actually no confusion.
No, wait. We're not going to argue. I'm just attempting to respond to what you said. Tell me what you said that you thought there was some impropriety.
Adversely affect the confidence of the public and the integrity of the government of the District of Columbia.
Okay, thank you for saying that. let me just say this in no uncertain terms. Everything that happened beginning the first day that the SMD meeting was held up until today has been in absolute strict compliance with not only DC code, but with OAG interpretation. Let me just say that, number one. Now, that's okay if you don't agree. I'm just going to tell you that. Number two, in terms of the community involved, if you want your voice to hear, if you want your voice to be heard, if anyone in this room really wants their voice to be heard about this matter, right now, we are in the equivalent to a litigation case. We're before ABRA. I have spent all day today and all day last week sitting through ABRA court cases, because that's just what I do for a living. And if you really want to know the process of protesting an alcohol license on behalf of the directly impacted residents, there was a status hearing. The gentleman from the Post was here, Ms. Hernandez attended at that status hearing.
And I watched it on video.
Thank you very much. But I was there physically, and so were a number of people. And if you were there, you would also know that the ANC resolution, which we put forth, happened after 53 residents who live within a block, not on Monroe Street, but who live on Jackson, and who live on 12th Street, and who live on 3rd, and who live on 10th. Formally organized, 53 of them, to protest that. And let me just finish. You only need a group of 5. So those persons followed the process. That was filed on Sunday, the Sunday before our ANC meeting. As a commissioner, absolutely. When my residents came to me and told me 53 of them, there was absolutely no question in my mind in support of those community, those residents who live right there, what I believe that the ANC should do. And that's what I did. Now, is that an objectionable offense for some? I don't know. But I would just encourage anyone who is interested in being heard about Brookland's finest, please plan to attend the August 14th ABRA protest hearing at 4 p.m. down at 2014th Street and the Reeves Center. Every issue that you have regarding that process can be discussed. There's a 5-board member ABC commissioners who will hear it. I will be there as the ANC protesting designee. The group of 53 will be there, and there are 2 other groups that are attempting still to get standing. So while the community, whatever community you're speaking of, I'm speaking of 5B, just a moment, ma'am. I'm speaking of 5B04 residents who I am elected to represent about a matter that's occurred in 5B04. Please feel free to come down to the hearing and let your voice be heard.
Now,
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. I'll let you share. That's up to you.
Yes, ma'am. Is this about the same matter?
I want to understand,
I'm just asking, is this about
Yes.
the same matter? Okay.
when you talk about 5B04,
Yes, ma'am.
and you talk about if we're not in your section, you're not concerned. As a resident of Brookland, I am concerned. That's a business district. That
Miss-
affects
Miss-
everyone in this room.
Miss,
It doesn't
We
just
all live
affect that
in, we all live
corner.
in Washington, D.C. We all live in Washington, D.C.
No.
Let me just say, wait a minute, let me just say something very clearly. We all live in Washington, D.C. I'm a Washingtonian. I'm very concerned about Washington, D.C., all parts of it. But you are elected by the people who live in your single-member district. That's the only person, when the young man here spoke to us, wait a minute, about the Brooklyn market, we made it very clear to him, that's in 5C. But it's not in, wait a minute, it's in 5C. Now, if you are not in 5B04, and the 5B0, whatever ANC you're in, then if that comes up in your single-member district, that commissioner would deal with that in your, but she can't deal with that for 5B04. She can never deal with that for 5B04. You can, as a resident, you can voice your concern, pro or against it, or, you know, again, one way or the
I
other.
understand what you're saying, but you also then can't go to a church and get 60 signatures of people that don't live in this neighborhood and consider that.
Well, then did
Ma'am,
you,
you're misinformed.
Sure.
No,
And I'm
I
not-
watched it.
Well,
I saw it. I'm
let
going to
me
lean
just
forward
say
here
that-
and tell you
let me just
that's
say
not
this.
okay.
Let me just say this. I would encourage you to make it a point to come to the hearing and all of the
I'm
facts.
not coming to the
Okay,
hearing.
well then that's up to you. But
That's
if
not-
I would
talking
encourage
to
you.
you guys.
wait a minute, let me just say this to you right now. Let me just say it to you right
They
now.
don't want the facts.
If Brooklyn Finance is your concern, then let's hold Brooklyn Finance because I'm telling you, Arbor is going to be on August the 14th. And it's not, let me just say it, be very clear about this tonight. There's nothing going to
It's not
happen.
about
It's not
Brooklyn's
about
Finest.
Brooklyn's Finest.
That's
What
what
is
we're
it about?
saying.
Excuse me, man. If
You brought it up Brooklyn Finance.
no,
No.
what I said is that it's not that, it's surrounding. And I understand what you're talking about, Mr. Steptoe, and I agree with you to a certain extent. But here's where we disagree. When you had your petition, and when you had people who were not residents of DC, much less
I
your
beg your pardon, Mr. Roberts.
Robert's son, and
you were misinformed.
I'm
Mr.
not
Roberts.
misinformed
Well,
because
I'm not gonna argue.
there were people at that meeting who were not granted
I-
standing based upon where they live,
No,
and the fact that they
sir.
signed that petition and used the
Sir.
church as their
Sir.
residence,
Sir,
that's the type of thing
Sir.
that undermines the
Sir.
confidence of the public.
unfortunately, Ms. Hernandez was there. Ms. Hernandez will repeat what was told to the churches. That
That's right.
churches in the District of Columbia, the lady with the camera, smile everyone, that churches in the District of Columbia do not have standing unless they are abutting. That was why they were dismissed. And if you also heard the rest, let me finish please, and if you also heard the rest of what Ms. Fletcher said, she said, however, based on the 53 signatures that you have from Church X at the time, if you have all of these residents who have District of Columbia addresses, they can form a group and then petition the board to ask them for standing.
It is
That's
not
what
about who
happened.
was disqualified. It is about who was asked to sign in the first place.
I
When I
encourage you to
believe
come
you
to
knew,
the August-
when I believe you knew that these were not DC residents.
Well, there's nothing I can say to that.
Well, I have a question.
You can say what you
You're
want.
clear,
You're mistaken in your.
I'm not mistaken.
that's okay.
When you have people who are signing their address as the church,
I'm
you
sorry.
need to tell,
I'm sorry.
ma'am.
Did you see me go to the church? Whose door did I go to?
You turned it in.
No, you don't know what I did.
Miss
You're uninformed.
Steptoe.
No, Mr.
Are you
Robertson.
saying right now that you had no
I am
hand in
telling
delivering?
you
Excuse
that
me,
comes
excuse
to
me.
the
Hold
to the ABRA hearing.
I asked you a direct question.
Commissioner. Wait a
I
minute, sir, let me
asked
say
you a
something to you right now, sir.
Come
Let
to
me
the
just say
African.
something, no, let me just say something to you right
Okay.
now.
Get the
You
facts.
asked your concern, you voiced your concern, we
Right.
thank you for that,
Thank
okay? Now, let me just say this to you tonight. Let me just say to you tonight, Brooklyn Finance is not going to be, if that's the only agenda that you all have, I've never seen any of you all at a meeting before. And so I'm only saying, not you, not you.
Whoa, I've been at every meeting.
You've been to
Oh,
every
yes,
one
I
of our
have,
meetings?
because we've all been at every meeting together.
Okay, well, I've never
So,
seen,
I've
we
been at
never
every
spoken,
meeting.
wait a minute, baby, you never spoke about it.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I asked
anyway.
Mr. Howland the question about is it legal for his people to park illegally to issue tickets?
Let me ask you something. This is not about Brooklyn Finance. If that is your
You're
only
right,
concern,
it isn't.
wait a minute. If that's your only concern, let us hear some other concerns, and we will come back to Brooklyn Finance. But I can say to you, August the 14th is
Yeah,
the date
show
when
up.
we're going to have
My
a
question
Yes,
about
it is.
my question about the committee.
If you have an
Okay,
issue,
what
you
is
should
the
take it
committee?
up
It's
with the
about
proper
that you
process.
guys represent our community. If you're going to represent our community,
I represent 5B01. I represent 5B01. That is what I represent. I represent 5B01.
But as a body you represent.
As a body,
you all
we work
had
on
individual
1, 2,
choices
3,
to go with
4,
her or
5.
not.
My
The
name
body
is
is
Miss
made
Steptoe,
up.
ma'am. My name is not her.
Okay.
But as a body, you
And let's
guys
not be
signed.
wait a minute, let me just say something we're not going to do. We're not going to be disrespectful to commissioners. And we have not been disrespectful to you all. Whatever you are saying, you're not. You're going to say she is Commissioner Steptoe. There's each one of us up here have a commission name. And so therefore, if you're going to address us, you're going to address us. If not, please do not address this commission, okay? Thank you. Yes, sir.
Oh, two things, Chairperson. As a body, you guys did sign the protest.
As a body, I did sign the protest.
Resolution, ma'am.
The resolution. We didn't sign a protest. I've never signed a protest. I signed a resolution that came from the
The
citizens.
ANC's formally protested.
That's right, from 5B04 residents who were brought to us.
Okay, now my question directly to Commissioner Steptoe. You mentioned the 53 as if they were the majority. They clearly represent a minority given
You
what.
don't have to have a majority, sir.
I understand that. The point is, why not reach out to the folks in the community who are in favor of the establishment
But three
and
times as many
try to
residents
talk to them.
signed a
That's-
Let me
that's
see
why
what the
you're
law
running.
says for Arbor. Let me see what the law says for Arbor. And she tried to make it very plain to you. Let me just say, all you need is 5. You don't, wait a minute, all you need is 5 for a hearing. For a hearing, all you need is 5. Let me just tell all you something that's in this room now. When Rob Ransom over at B Cafe, There were 4 people there, and none of them lived there, but one lady across the street who took pictures every day of every car who came into that block. And those 4 people stopped him for 2 years for not having any business at all. Now, he had 125 residents like us who supported him, and they didn't care. Okay? So I'm only saying to you, when you all say this about, wait a minute, when you all say this about,
revenge for the injustice?
no, but wait a minute, let me just say something to you, babe. I'm not a child. I don't do revenge. Let me just say something to you, because that's very, to me, that's very disrespectful. Now that's very disrespectful, and I've talked to you and your husband, so let me just say, no, I don't care anything about that, but let me just say to you all, when you all start being disrespectful, we're not being disrespectful to you, and we're not going to allow you to be disrespectful to us. You're not going to say that we're doing things that are not ethical. You're not going to come in here and tell us, first of all, we have nothing to gain. If Brooklyn Finance open today, or it never opens in this community, it won't cost me a dime. It won't cost me a dime.
It's costing more.
Madam Chair, let me just,
It
Madam
won't cost me
Chair,
a dime.
Madam Chair,
Okay.